the horsemeat scandal. But why are supermarkets increasingly providing us with horsemeat? I believe that I have found the solution. Now, on your tables in front of you, you'll find a sheet, and at the top, there is a map. It's a map of Leicester, and all the dots on there are supermarkets. And you will notice that as you go in towards Leicester, there are more and more and more supermarkets until you reach the epicentre. And that is where you find the real cause for the horsemeat scandal. At that epicentre is the final burial place of Richard III. A horse, a kingdom for a horse. If only it were that simple. What I'm going to talk about is DNA testing, because that's really cropping up, and how it actually works. So what I would like to do is introduce you into this gargantuan cell which we're sitting. The boundaries are the walls, and the table outlines the nucleus, where everybody knows you have the strings of DNA. And this is my DNA, and some of it's from my mother, and some of it's from my father. What people are not aware of is that the cell also contains little organs. It contains hundreds of them. And these organs, or organelles, are called mitochondria, and they too have got DNA within them. And there is one unusual feature about these mitochondria, because in a normal large cell, to scale, here is a sperm cell, one I prepared earlier. And you will notice that it's got room for the DNA inside, but not for any mitochondria, which means that all the cells that we have in our bodies contain DNA from our mothers and fathers, but mitochondria only from our mothers. But the interesting thing about mitochondria is that they are small pieces of DNA, and you can read them, and scientists can actually read the sequence of them. And the sequence differs from species to species. So if you can extract DNA and you can read the sequence, you can identify what the species is. And in fact, if I could ask my beautiful assistant Mark to appear. Now I've transliterated this into English. So these are sentences. So it is, I am from horse meat is the top DNA, or I am from cow's meat is the bottom one. And you will see that a lot of the letters are the same, but where they're marked in red, you can see that there is a difference. And that really is how it works. The problem comes that we're talking about mixtures of DNA, not just a pure sample. And what happens if you mix horse meat and beef DNA and you try to read that sentence, you get, I am from, who knows, gobbledygook meat. So scientists have had to think of another solution. And the way they've done it, you don't get away that easily.
Everything around here.
Yeah, such good looks. Is what you do is you look for something that's fairly characteristic and that you can distinguish by size. So in this instance we have I am from horse or I am from cow, and you will see that the sentences are slightly different lengths. Now if you start with a small sample and you multiply it up a million times, you have enough DNA to actually be able to separate them by size. Thank you very much. You may see. And a round of applause for our panel. And in fact, if you look at the last figure, this little table at the bottom, you will see on either side there is a standard, which are just different size. It's a ladder of different sizes, starting at 100 and going by 100, 200, 300, etc. But in the middle, you then have bands from different species, which are identified. So we have buffalo, goat, cattle, and sheep. And what's more, here on the very first line, we have the mixture. We've got a mixture of different meats put together, and you can tell that it contains a mixture of those meats. So there you go. You can actually identify meat from mixtures, but there is one hitch. This simple method only works if you know what you're looking for. And I think that is where things went wrong within the supermarkets. Because basically they assumed we have beef at the beginning of the chain, and we've got everything to check where it's going. But nobody thought to look for horse until they did it in Ireland. So in summary, you now know that you have DNA from your mother and from your father. You also have mitochondrial DNA. And that DNA can be used to identify where you're from, what sort of species you are. You've also learnt that it is possible to identify by the size where or how large your fragment is and where the material is from. I would like to finish with a tweet, being a very gargantuanly social media person. And this is actually a statement that is technically true. And I've had to phrase it slightly. It's from Shane McKean. So it goes like this. So, breaking news. DNA from Richard III has been discovered in supermarket burgers. Good night.